Welcome to yet another English class. And today's English class will not be based on literature. We won't be discussing any lesson nor any poem, but we'll focus on grammar a bit today. And for class 9, there are certain chapters in grammar which are very, very important. And one of them is obviously active and passive voice. We must have studied this. We must have done a lot of exercises on active and passive from class 6 onwards. But the problem is we forget to note down certain important rules when we convert sentences from active to passive and vice versa. So those rules need to be kind of discussed in detail so that this chapter becomes easy and you can breeze through any exercise related to this topic. Right. Before we get into the topic, we must know what an active and a passive voice are. What is an active voice and what is a passive voice? For example, if I say, I love or I like ice cream. You can see the sentence here. You see, I like ice cream. I is the head word. That is the subject. So here the subject does something. The subject likes ice cream. So I, the subject word, followed by like, which is a verb, okay, and ends up in the object ice cream. So when you do something, when the speaker or when the subject does something, it is said to be in the active voice. As you see here, I. That is a head verb, that is a subject, it likes something. The word I likes something. So, obviously the sentence is in the active voice. But when you look at this particular sentence, ice cream is liked by me. Is liked. These are the two words to be noticed, to be focused on. So, something is done. So, what is done here? Ice cream is liked. So, liked by me. The word by comes followed by the subject changed into me. So, before we discuss active and passive voice, you must get this concept clear. What is the concept? When you do something by yourself, it is said to be in the active voice. I run a race. You do something, running a race. So, that is in the active voice. You can easily find out from the sentence. I practice grammar every day. What does this sentence tell you? You do something. She makes beautiful drawings. She does something here. And what does she do? She makes some beautiful drawings. So, when the subject is doing something, that is said to be in the active voice. Here, the subject is given importance. What the subject does is of secondary importance, okay, but who does it? That particular person is focused, and therefore this sentence is said to be in the active voice. But the second sentence, something is done by the subject. Ice cream is liked by me. So who likes ice cream? I like ice cream. What is liked? Ice cream is liked by me. You can differentiate these two sentences. Here in the second sentence, by is used. But in the first sentence, by is not used. That is one major difference in identifying the active as well as passive voice. So, the first thing that you need to put in your mind is, in the active voice, the person, the subject does something. In the passive voice, something is done by the person. With this concept, now let us get into the chapter, or the topic, so to say. Now, you see, I have made two arrows here. I like ice cream. And this I is the subject, and the subject turns out to be the object. And ice cream, which is the object in the active voice, becomes the subject. So, the object and the subject are interchanged. That is the most important point to be noted here. Object and subject, they are interchanged. So the rule is, what acts as a subject in the active voice becomes the object in the passive voice. I repeat, what acts as a subject in the active voice turns out to be the object in the passive voice. That is what is being indicated here. So I hope you're clear. You are with me so far? Now, the second important point to be noticed while discussing active and passive voice is the past participle. Now in your smaller classes, the junior classes, you must have studied about the different parts V1, V2, V3 and V4. Every word has its own form. The first form, the second form, the third form and the fourth form. So, in the active and passive voice, you must remember only the past participle is used in most of the sentences. There might be some exceptions. We'll discuss that in later classes. But right now, the point that you should keep in mind is V3, that is the past participle, is used in the active and passive voice. When the active form is changed into passive, we use the past participle. So you see, in the first sentence, I have written I like ice cream. Like is the verb and it is in the first form. This is in the first form, that is V1. But you look at the second sentence. When the same sentence is changed into passive, like is changed into liked, and therefore this is the past participle. So, coming back, when the speaker or the subject does something, it is in the active voice. When something is being done by the subject, it is in the passive voice. This is rule number 1. Or this is a concept, so to say. And the rules. What acts as a subject in the active voice becomes the object in the passive voice. And what acts as an object in the active voice becomes the subject in the passive voice. Interchanged. This is one important rule you need to keep in mind. And the next one is only the past participle is used in most of the passive forms. Okay. Now if you see, I like ice cream. This is in the present simple form. Let me tell you one thing, dear students. To understand active and passive voice, you also need to have a clear idea about the tenses in the active voice. Present simple, present continuous, present perfect continuous. Simple past, past continuous, past perfect and past perfect continuous. Simple future, future continuous, future perfect and future perfect continuous. These are the tenses in the active voice. You must know what the tenses in the active voice are. And you must know the formulas of them. Only then you will be able to convert the sentences from active into passive. So, learn your tenses, get your tenses right. That is very, very important because tenses act as the base. Tenses act as the base for active and passive voice. So when you talk about tenses, obviously you need to keep these things, that is the verb forms, in mind as well, especially this particular part, that is the past participle. So this is a present simple tense. I followed by the first form of the verb, that is like. Now when you change this, you see there is a formula. Object comes in the beginning. And is or am or are, any one of them is used according to the number of objects. See whether the object is in the singular form or in the plural form. So if it is in the singular form, is used. You see, I like ice cream. Ice cream is in the singular form, so I have used is. But if this object is in the plural form, for example, I like stories. I is the subject, like is the verb, stories is the object, but object is in the plural form, stories. It takes the S with it. So when you change the plural object, the helping verb becomes are. Stories are liked by me. I repeat, I like stories. stories are liked by me. Why did I use are? Because the object is in the plural form. So you must be very careful. You have to find out whether the object is in the singular form or in the plural form. If it is in the plural form, you must use a plural verb. If it is in the singular form, you must use a singular verb. So I hope so far it is clear. Now coming to this part. I teach my brother English. So I is object, obviously the subject word. Teach is V1. My brother. What is my brother? Whom do I teach? I teach my brother. So this word my brother gives you the answer for the question whom. So here you see indirect object. My brother acts as the indirect object. So you find an indirect object here, whereas here you don't find an indirect object. You have only the direct object. But here, I teach my brother English. So my brother acts as an indirect object. And finally, English. What is English then? Obviously the direct object. So the indirect object comes first, followed by the direct object. You must be able to identify this very carefully. If you know that there are two objects, then how do you change or convert that into passive voice? You see, my brother is taught English by me. I repeat, my brother. That is the indirect object comes first. It becomes the subject. If there is no indirect object, the direct object becomes the subject. Keep this rule in mind. If there is an indirect object, then the indirect object becomes the subject. So my brother is. Why do I use is here? Because my brother is in the third person singular form. So obviously I use is. Then taught. V3 is used. English. Now here comes the direct object. By me. So how does the formula go? My brother, that is the indirect object, plus helping verb according to the indirect object. So you use is or am or are, plus past participle, V3 form. Then comes the direct object. Remember, this formula is important. Direct object comes after the past participle, followed by, and then finally you have the subject here. I repeat the formula. Indirect object comes first, followed by the helping verb, then the past participle, then the direct object, by plus the subject. This exactly is the formula for a sentence which has an indirect as well as a direct object. Now dear students, I have discussed only one tense, that is present simple. It's a statement and I've given you the formula. Now you see, present continuous, it has a formula. Present perfect has a formula as well. But for present perfect continuous, there is no formula. Simple past has a formula. Past continuous has a formula. Past perfect has a formula. Past perfect continuous, no formula. Simple future, formula. Future perfect, formula. Future continuous and future perfect continuous, no formulas. We will discuss these formulas and tenses in detail in the coming classes. But for now, I think you should be clear about what I have discussed. And you see, before we wind up, let me kind of point out this to you. This is again an important point. You see, there are several things you need to keep in kind of mind when you're discussing active and passive. Because a lot of changes come in. And what are the changes? Pronouns. These are all the pronouns. So how do the pronouns get changed? I is changed into me. Take these changes into mind. She is changed into her. He is changed into him. They is changed into them. We changed into us and you does not take any change. It remains as it is. So this is one point you need to take notice of. You need to keep in mind. This is another point you need to keep in mind. Past participle used. This is another point that you need to keep in mind. Interchange of the subject and object. And finally, this is another important point, the most important of all, because without knowing the verb forms, you will never be able to convert active voice into passive voice. There are many other types and there are rules for changing them as well. It's actually a vast subject. It cannot be taught in one class. So today we wind up with this and we'll discuss the rest in the next class. Till then, take care and stay safe at home.